that though she might look as though she had stepped straight out of the pages of country life, she had been born a long way east of the Bosphorus, and was proud of it. "Charles, this is Nasreen. I'm at home in Rio. I need to talk to you urgently. It's about Harry. Please call me back as soon as possible." She gave her number in Brazil. I don't have a large flat, but I try anyway to keep the phone as far away from my desk as I can. I like to think that if I can't see it, it isn't there. Out of sight, out of mind. As a result, I'm constantly running into the alcove by the kitchen to grab the receiver just as the caller rings off. Even if the phone hadn't been the other side of the room, I would probably have missed her. It had been 5 years since I last heard Nasreen's voice, and it gave me quite a turn. As a matter of fact, I was rocked back on my heels, literally as well as figuratively. Instead of running to the phone, I sat transfixed at my desk. Just the sound of her speaking into the answering machine gave me goosebumps all over. 10 years ago, Nasreen and I had been engaged. 2 weeks before the wedding, she told me she was going to marry my brother Harry instead. I haven't spoken to her since. I ought to explain that Harry and I are twins, though I apparently arrived first, by about 2 hours. Our father was a British diplomat, and, as is the case with many diplomatic families, we were sent off at an early age to boarding school. I'm always meeting people nowadays who complain about their school days, particularly about being separated from their parents for so much of the year, as though there was something unnatural and inhumane about it. I don't believe that either Harry or I suffered from our years at Millbourne School in the depths of the Dorset countryside, although we reacted very differently to the place. I had a mediocre career at school, scraping into Cambridge with 3 A-levels and a tutor's letter of recommendation, which was probably friendlier than I deserved. Harry's time at Millbourne was far more illustrious. We weren't in the same boarding house, but it was impossible not to be aware of Harry's progress. He was a name. A blood, as we called it then, in a way that I never was. He played for the first 11 at cricket, besides captaining the school tennis team and carrying off the debating prize 2 years in succession. Truth to tell, from about as early as I can remember, in spite of the fact that we were twins, Harry and I went our separate ways. We didn't even look alike. Though we are both about the same height, around 6 foot, I am dark and narrow, while Harry is blonde and broad-shouldered. At school, he had his own friends and I had mine. Oddly enough, we saw more of each other in Cambridge than we did at school. For a start, we were in the same college, Trinity. Harry had always maintained that he didn't want to waste 3 years at university when he could be making a fortune in business, but the school insisted that he sit the university entrance exams, and where I scraped in, he ended up with an open scholarship. We weren't on the same staircase, but we both had rooms in Great Court, and inevitably our paths crossed several times a week. I met Nasreen in the spring term of my final year. Her full name was Nasreen Hassan. She came from a rich Iranian family which had fled Tehran after the fall of the Shah and had, I learned, established itself in leafy Surrey, not far from Godalming. It was clear that the Hassans, though in a sense refugees, were far from destitute. Nasreen was always immaculately and expensively dressed. She floated into lectures with a chiffon scarf trailing from her lovely neck. Her almost pure white skin contrasted with her thick, jet-black hair. I fell madly in love with her at long distance. I found myself speculating about her life and loves, and wondering how, if ever, our paths might cross. Then one day, I found myself sitting next to her at close of play in the history faculty library. I was so tongue-tied, it was as much as I could do to suggest we might have a drink and a stroll by the river. I could hardly believe my luck at first. With the whole wide world to choose from, why did Nasreen select me? We spent the rest of that term and most of the Easter holidays together. Nasreen took me to stay with her parents. They had an enormous mock Tudor establishment with grounds of at least 10 acres, swimming pool, tennis court, and paddocks for the horses. Parvis Hassan, Nasreen's father, was a keen show jumper in his spare time, and Nasreen herself, as I soon learned, was a very competent horsewoman. I said I fell in love with Nasreen, and I did. But we were not lovers. Nasreen explained